Good morning. At 6 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock, I have the pleasure of welcoming to the WPKY studios Mr. Phil Van Hooser this morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Ty. Thanks.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming in. It's a gorgeous day. Did you have a nice Memorial Day holiday? We got to see some great baseball last night.
Well, I got a little opportunity to work in the yard. That was nice. And then go down and watch the Tigers win a big one. It was exciting. But, yeah, it was a wonderful holiday.
Great to have, we remember those folks that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms, and then to be able to be with your friends and family and see a great baseball game, nothing like it.
I'll be back down there this week, tonight, and hopefully cheering them on to tomorrow. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, they play the Henderson County Colonels tonight. Our Tigers do at 8 o'clock, and we'll have that game right here on WPKY, the Tiger. Good to have you here today, and it is Phillip Van Hooser, local guy, but he's done some traveling, lived away for a little bit, but he's been back for a good while now. Phil is an expert in leadership. He's a speaker and an author, and we're just pleased to welcome you here today.
Ty, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit. Let's sort of go. Of course, a lot of folks know you. You're local. You grew up here. Let's talk a little bit just about you and your experience and how you came to speak and do what you do.
All right. Well, as you said, I'm a our family are longtime members of Caldwell County or residents of Caldwell County, multi-generational, both here in the county and even in the Fredonia area. My mom, my dad, so long time, deep roots.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way. Graduated from class of 75 at Caldwell County High School, and of course Murray State in 79. I'm a racer as well.
Yes.
Went off to do to chase my professional dream, and primarily working in manufacturing and management positions in manufacturing for the first 10 years or so of my career. And during that time became acutely aware that leadership was an issue. We pitch people into leadership positions, but we don't necessarily prepare them for those leadership positions. Some people do very well by hook or by crook. They learn on the fly. Other people struggle sometimes their entire career. I saw that, and over the 10 years that I was working in industry, I frankly determined that there was a need, and maybe I was the one that was uniquely qualified to help them with that need. And so in 1988, I started my own business. I was still living in Florida at the time, but Susan and I, my wife and I, who also, as you know, is a Caldwell County native, she and I decided, let's take a risk. And so we stepped out and we created Van Hooser Associates, which was a company that was dedicated to speaking, training, all on the topic of leadership. And so from there, now into our 30th year, we have grown a business that, frankly, has been very exciting. So that's professionally how we got started.
Well, I know that I have seen you speak on several occasions, not just locally, but I went to a conference as a banker. I know you spoke at the CSI conference in Indianapolis a couple years ago. Always a great presentation, and have always appreciated hearing your insight to leadership and about what it takes to be a leader. In fact, you've written several books about that. I remember the first book I read was called Willie's Way. I didn't read Your Joe's Boy. I've kind of skimmed through that one. That was kind of cool because I know that's got some, but Willie's Way impacted me at some point because I was looking at how I could better myself. But Willie was just basically a taxi. You had a chance meeting with this guy from one of your travels, and he taught you a lot, didn't he?
He taught me a lot. He was a cab driver in Columbia, South Carolina. We met in February of 1998, and he gave me a ride. I spent about 45 minutes in a cab with him from the airport to the hotel, and watching him do what all of us should do for our customers was just amazing. And over time, it just connected with me, and I wrote a book. That book, the book that you're talking about, Willie's Way, 6 Secrets for Wooing, Wowing, and Winning Customers and Their Loyalty, came out in 2005. Willie and I still have maintained a friendship. He's getting a little long in the tooth, like some of the rest of us now, and his health is failing a little bit, but I still talk to him on a regular basis, and I'll tell him later, hopefully today, but I'll tell him that he impacted you.
He did. It was a great book and a great story, and it's, sometimes you sit there and read that stuff and you go, well, that's kind of common sense, but it might be, but it's almost like a good thing that's in front of you. Sometimes you just take it for granted or you just forget about it.
Well, Ty, what I say, and I say this a lot, people say to me regularly and have for almost 30 years, Phil, what you're talking about is common sense. And I go, absolutely, but common sense is not necessarily common practice. just because we know something, if we don't do it, we don't benefit from it. So what I try to do is sort of pave the way and letting people understand that leadership is not as challenging as some might want to make it, as long as you have a plan. And I help them create that plan. And Willie's Way and my other writing and speaking and training is all intended to do just that.
Well, there's another book here that you authored, and I think this is the last one, and it's called Leaders Ought to Know, 11 Ground Rules for Common Sense Leadership. There's
Right.
the word, common sense. In fact, in Leadership Caldwell, the call team, the Caldwell Line Leadership, this was a book that we used this year, as a matter of fact, and we actually, in the team, I was on a team that made a quiz for
really?
our team. Yeah, here's how I'll show it to you before you leave. There's a quiz there. But 11 ground rules for common sense leadership. And yes, it is a path. It does pave the way to take those common sense rules, so to speak, and implement them as you go through your routine.
Well, first of all, I did know that the leadership Caldwell County was using the book. I was flattered by that. But one of the things I tell people about leadership is a process. Now, remember the word process. We use process a lot, but I don't know that people always understand exactly what that means. A process is a series of actions or activities that are designed to accomplish a specific goal or objective. Now, if you can identify those actions and activities that always are leading you forward toward that ultimate goal, then, quite frankly, the process can be replicated. And I know we'll talk a little later, but that's exactly what we're trying to do with Vision West Kentucky, Vision 2050. We're trying to identify and get people engaged in the process of developing their leadership skills and then moving them into leadership positions that they can positively impact not only the organizations they represent, meaning their careers, their jobs, but also the community in which they're so ready and able and willing to give back, but giving them an opportunity to know just how they can make a difference.
And that's a perfect segue into Vision West Kentucky, and something that you've sort of instilled here in the community. Tell us about. I mean, folks have heard of it. They've seen events around town recently. This past weekend, Saturday. We had the kickball tournament out at Ratliff Park. Looked like a huge success. I was out there, Jordan and I, with the radio station for a few minutes. Tell us about Vision West Kentucky, how it came about, who's involved, and we'll kind of go from there.
I'll give you a quick one. If you want more specifics, I'll be happy to fill in the blanks.
Sure.
But in essence, what happened, Ty, was in the summer of 2014, I was invited to speak at the chamber banquet, the local chamber banquet. And they gave me free rein to talk about things that I thought were important in the community. Well, this is something that I've been thinking about before that for 2, 3, 4 or more years. Because of my job, I travel a lot, and I can't commit to being a part of a civic group necessarily or a lot of committees because my travel schedule doesn't always allow it. But I knew I wanted to give back. I wanted to do something that frankly would make a difference. And so that night at the chamber banquet, I introduced a concept that I had conceived in my mind. I didn't know what the response would be, but I hoped it would be good. But I said that I want to create a leadership program, not to compete with Leadership Caldwell County, because that is wonderful, and it talks about what's going on in Caldwell County, becoming more familiar. But my leadership program that I had conceived was all about personal leadership growth and development over an extended period of time, a process, again, if you will.
Right.
And so I said in January of 2016, I'm going to be kicking off a program. I'll take as many as 12 people, ages 25 to 35. These are young professionals who are interested in developing their leadership skills. We'll meet on a monthly basis, 2.5 hours per session, and we'll meet for the entirety of the year. I will share with them, in essence, the same leadership message that I'm sharing with people who hired me to come out and do it. But we'll do it together as a group. We'll do it together as neighbors. We'll do it together with a common purpose of trying to apply these concepts back to the community when we're finished. Well, I didn't know if I would get 2, 5, 10, I didn't know. Well, I was pretty amazed that even before that session was over, that very night that I announced it, I had no less than 4 people that came up and said, I want to be a part of that. And that was the nucleus. And so the first year, and I tell them all the time, they were my guinea pigs, you know. I didn't know. I didn't have a program completely developed. But we practiced on them. We tried things, and they were wonderful. And out of that initial 12 people, we graduated 11, and 10 of them at the end of the year came to me and said, "So, Phil, this is almost over. We want to keep it going." I said, "Well, you're going to have to do it someplace else because I've got year or group 2 coming in." Well, I'm really happy because not only they learned leadership, but they practiced leadership by saying, we want to go to the next level. And so I worked with them, Susan worked with them, et cetera. But they created a 501c3 nonprofit organization calling themselves Vision West Kentucky. And they decided for a mission that that they are a group of innovative young professionals, but they want to commit to the success of each other, but also the growth and development of Caldwell County and all of West Kentucky. That's why they said Vision West Kentucky. Right. They had a bigger vision, and that vision went beyond the boundaries of our county alone. Well, I'm happy to say that now we have graduated two groups. That second group came directly into Vision West Kentucky as well. We're halfway through Class 3 now in the middle of 2017. So in late this year, early next year, they will increase their numbers by another 10, 12 people, I'm assuming. And that number of young professionals is growing markedly, and the activities that you talked about are growing as well. They're doing a lot of interesting things that people are beginning to hear about, and more people are getting on board with, and that's very exciting for us.
Very exciting, and I think as we talked before we came on air, the classes are the you call them Vision 2050. Is that
Vision
right?
2050 is the 1 year they commit to for the educational process.
Then they transition into Vision West Kentucky after taking the Vision 2050 process.
1 year program.
One-year program.
Right.
So yeah, and it has fruit has been born from the trees, because I mean the cellist that was here, that was a wonderful event that you all brought in. A nice crowd at First Baptist Church.
Right.
That was a wonderful. This kickball I know was kind of a fundraiser for you all,
right.
But you all take that and use those to bring these programs to the county. But that's just part of it.
Let me talk about that for a second, because this is something that this group is exceptionally proud of, and I think they should be. First of all, this is a group that's focused on a variety of activities within Caldwell County. You mentioned the kickball tournament this weekend, which engaged, and we talked about this off air, but it engaged people that were 8, 10 years old, all the way up into their 50s and 60s, came together for a full day. There was 200 people probably at any one time out there. It was just very exciting. But you also mentioned the concert. We had a classical concert. In fact, that was the second one we had. One was in 2016 as well as 2017. But the things that oftentimes aren't seen, our members of Vision West Kentucky have spent a lot of time at the high school with programs for preparing people for the workplace, teaching them interviewing skills, how to write a resume, how to write a follow-up note to a prospective employer. We've had, young professionals where they have a meet and greet trying to draw other young professionals into it. There's just a variety, and by the way, for people who are interested, they can go to the Vision West Kentucky Facebook page, and they will see more, as well as a timeline of all the things that have gone on from its inception.
That was the video, I think, that Susan sent me. Yeah, it's a fantastic video, folks. Yeah, you need to go to that Facebook page and check out the video, because it's a fantastic timeline of the inception of Vision West Kentucky
to the
present, yes.
And it gives them an opportunity to know more about us and who's participating. It also gives them an opportunity to like us, connect with us, so that they'll know continuing what's going on. But the other point I want to make is, and you said we've given back a lot. You said it was a fundraiser. I want to make the point, and this is very important to the Vision West Kentucky folks, as it is to me. This group has been totally self-funded. Mm-hmm. They've not gone to one organization in this community with a handout saying, can you give us this or that or the other? That's not what leadership is. Leadership is paving the way and paying the way for ourselves along the way. Right. Now, certainly we've had fundraisers, but all of that money, I mean, literally every penny is going to go back into the services that are provided to our community and to our region by Vision West Kentucky. And I think is remarkable.
That's fantastic. And I've also seen them, they've stepped up the city-county park. They went out there. Several Vision West Kentucky members were out there. I saw them with paint rollers in hand. They helped Steve and the park board, spruce up the park, get it ready for this summer. and that is giving back to your community as
And
well.
they did that last summer as
Yes.
well. One thing that went, for the most part, unnoticed was back last December. Our group drove around town, and they noticed that there were some leaves that
Yes.
had accumulated, and primarily they were in people's yards who could not do that themselves. And so the group organized a leaf rake, and they went out. And I don't remember how many yards, 10, 15 yards, but they went out and cleaned people's yards up. Now, those are the things where they put not only their money where their mouth is, they put their time and their energy where their mouth is. And I think the community needs to know that this group is working for them, and of course we're open to see what other things we can help, as long as it's within the mission of our group. We can't be all things to all people.
Right.
But as long as it's expanding young professionals, the activities, and advocating for and promoting growth in our community, then that's certainly things that we're interested in being a part of.
Definitely. And so you said you're getting ready. The third class is about halfway through.
Yeah.
This being June, or almost June anyway.
Right.
And then you're working on recruiting. What if somebody is hearing this and they're saying, you know what, I want to be a part of that. That sounds exciting. That sounds like something I want to be a part of.
Well, first of all, that's wonderful. That's exactly what we hope people are thinking about. Either they want to be a part of it, or they know someone who needs to be a part of it who may not be aware of it. Right now, we have on our, rosters, that's not the right word, but we have over 60 potential candidates for 12 slots for 2018 already.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity. Remember, there's a time frame from age 25 to 35. So someone who may not be chosen this year as a 26-year-old, 7-year-old, still has a number of years to be considered. We don't want for people to think this is so exclusive that we are trying to handpick and therefore eliminate anybody. The reality of it is we're trying to incorporate as many people as we can over an extended period of time. There are strength in numbers. And so if they're interested, they can go to the Vision West Kentucky site, the Vision West Kentucky Facebook page, and they can, drop a note, say this is something I'd be interested in. How do I get more information? Somebody will respond. Or for that matter, they could even call our offices, and our office number is 365 1536, 270-365-1536, and say, how do I get more information? We'd be more than happy to supply it. I won't promise that anybody will be chosen, because it is a competitive activity, and that's why we want the best, the brightest, the most committed to be a part. But we do want people to be interested and available, because we want to get people involved to whatever degree we can.
And it's interesting you say it's not about exclusivity.
No.
It's more, but there's something about those groups. You say 10 or 12 that there's a bonding aspect. If you get larger, or if it's harder for that to I think come together. I've been in those work groups. You see where I'm getting at with those? So I see that there's probably a method there in keeping that class size a certain size.
I had somebody ask me just the other day, so Phil, tell me about it, and I've explained it pretty much the same way I'm explaining it to you, and they go, well, how many can participate? I said 12. And they said, well, why 12? What's the magic number about 12? I said, well, there's 2 or 3 things. Number one, we meet in our kitchen. And so 12 people is about what we can seat in our kitchen. Number 2, I spend a lot of time with these people during the course of the year, and if I extend myself too much, then I can't spend and invest myself in the 12. But the other one I said, but for some reason it worked well for Jesus, that he started with 12, and the movement expanded accordingly. And I said, so if it worked for Jesus, maybe it'll work for us as well.
Hey, that's it's hard to go against that argument.
It's a model and a process that has worked over the centuries. So
I've had a good friend, a boss, and a mentor that always talked about it's the process. It's the process.
Exactly.
Big on leadership. And of course, there are wonderful other books out there on leadership. Maxwell comes to mind, and there's just so many others.
Covey,
Tony Covey, Tony Robbins. But there's nothing like the experience and what you're giving these young professionals to take out into their workplaces, their communities, and put it into action.
The reality of it is, Ty, on those monthly basis, those meetings that we come in, it's 2.5 hours, And by the way, I'll remind you that these are young professionals, but they're also young family members. They've got kids at home.
Right.
They're making a tremendous sacrifice
commitment.
to participate. A commitment, absolutely right. And I tell them, okay, the first 30 minutes, we're going to break bread together. I think there's some value in eating together and laughing, talking, cutting up. And then for 2 hours, we're going to study together. And those 2-hour studies are very interactive study periods. But they also have homework assignments. They have things they have to do to not only listen and read and learn about leadership, but also practice leadership during that year that they've been involved. I won't go into all of that now because there's too many details, but understand that it is a very participative, very interactive, and very engaged process that leads them in that first year to hopefully the continuing of the engagement and activity for Vision West Kentucky and for many, many years to follow.
Right. Is there anything that you can tell us about what we can expect from Vision West Kentucky from now, maybe toward the end of the year?
Nothing that I can report personally. Not that that means that it's not happening.
Something's going on. I guarantee it.
Let me say to you that the Vision West Kentucky has a board, has a executive leadership group and a board group, and they have a committee structure. So they have fundraising committees, they have PR committees, they have give back community activity committees. All of those are working, each one of them with a charge to bring something back to the group through the course of the year, and that will continue into the next year and the next year beyond. One thing that they will be doing, and they're enhancing this more and more all the time, is their public relations, their PR activities. By the way, thank you to WPKY for your support of that. You've been wonderful up to this point. I'm sure that working relationship will continue over time.
We want to continue that partnership, yes, indeed.
But understand that we will always have something come up, but not all of it will be for total public consumption.
Right.
Sometimes it's for a youth group. Sometimes it's for a senior group. Sometimes for the entire community. But they're constantly working toward trying to meet the mission they've established for themselves.
And it's not necessarily about tooting their own horn either. It's just about getting something done for the community, for some place that might be in need, some person that might be in need, some group that might be in need.
Ty, let me say this too. You're exactly right on all of that. But this group of young professionals, you know, so often we hear about the millennial group or the next generation, call it whatever you will. And it's not always in glowing terms. I'm telling you from having the last 2.5 years of spending regular time with this group, these are some of the best and the brightest, most energetic, and most available. Now, I want to stress that. Sometimes in our community and other communities our size, maybe larger, maybe smaller, we overlook a percentage of our population, a segment of our population. This group that I've been working with are already leading in their own professional groups. Many of them have advanced degrees. Many of them have many people working for them. We've got people in our group that oversee multi-million-dollar budgets, and people don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
These are people who are already serving. And from this group, we already have members of Planning Commission, Hospital Board, we've got chamber members, we've got folks who have come out of that and said, now I want to go do it.
Right.
The reality of it is we have more people, they're ready and able, et cetera. And I would encourage local leadership at every level, at every age, even old guys like me, that we need to realize that our biggest challenge is preparing and offering the opportunity for the next generation, not for our benefit necessarily, but for the generations that will follow in our community. It's really, really important to leave situations better than we found them.
Definitely.
And we have that opportunity with these young people who are preparing themselves.
Such a great positive message in way that, you know, a community should come together and should bond. And this is a great community, and I think our community is very supportive of groups such as this that are trying to get something to work. Not going to put you on the spot to name names because you've had several classes, but if somebody's listening and they want to say, I wonder who's in that group, is there a way that they can find? Is there a list of these folks, or is it just something that you don't publish? Or
that's a great question. I'm not sure there's a complete roster. There may be on Vision West Kentucky Facebook page, but I can tell you who our leadership group is.
Okay.
President this year is Michael Fawn. Vice President is Charles Frank, Chuck. Most people know him as Chuck Beavers. Our secretary is Tiffany Massey. Our treasurer is Kayla Thomas. Our historian, you mentioned the history on our Facebook page is Kayla Kukihiko.
Okay.
We also have 2 at-large board members who are in the persons of Jake Pepper and Jake Ramage. Now, again, those are just the elected officials. There are a significant number of members of the group as well, but those are the people who were elected by their own, their compadres, their peers,
yes,
for the purpose of leading into this new year. They're doing a tremendous job, and of course there will be others that will follow in that regard in the days ahead. But again, I could not be more proud of the individuals. Let me say this, Ty. You mentioned at the onset of our conversation that I've been doing leadership training for almost 30 years now. I've done more than 900 groups, more than almost 5,000 presentations now.
Fortune 500 companies all over the place.
It's been a blessing.
Yes,
it's been
it has.
amazing. It's been a blessing. But here's the thing. I am as excited about this activity and what's happening and what will happen than I am all these other things that I'm doing that, frankly, are my day job, if you will.
Right.
And that's been a lot of fun.
It's special. It has to feel good to know that, here you were just giving another, not that it's routine, but another speech at a chamber event. You had this vision, this idea, and then all of a sudden it blossoms into something and it starts bearing fruit. It got to be very satisfying.
Well, it's tremendously satisfying for me, for my wife. Susan is actively involved in all of this. She's behind the scenes kind of a thing.
But your right hand, no doubt about it.
And left hand and brain and everything else.
I know. Yeah.
But the other part of it is, and I don't have time to go into this, but there were so many people that invested in me 40-plus years ago. And I'm thinking specifically, and these names won't mean a lot to everybody, but they might mean something to some. But Sam Ruth and Jerry Hall, when I was in college, came to me and said, "We see leadership potential in you. We want to invest. We want to help you." They never hired me. Instead, they told me what they knew and let me apply that later on. And I have never forgotten that. And so to come back to my hometown and my community that I love and people that I love and respect, and to be able to give a little bit back has been a great and very rewarding experience. Remember, these young people could have gone anywhere and been successful.
Right.
They chose to stay in Princeton. They chose to stay in Caldwell County. They chose to stay in Fredonia. And they want to be successful here. They're going to be successful here, but they want to use their time, their talents, their energies, their experiences, their educations. They want to do it right here. We've got to find ways to be able to encourage and empower them.
Awesome. We can't thank you enough for your vision for the group, and we want to support you and your efforts and their efforts as much as we can, and just can't thank you enough. Are there any websites, again, Facebook page you want to direct folks to before we get out of here this morning?
Well, I've already mentioned the Vision West Kentucky page. For those people who might have some passing interest in what we do, I'll give you 2 websites. The first one is the easiest one, www.vanhooser, my last name, .com, Van Hooser. That talks about our speaking and training, but I also have a website that's aligned with the book you mentioned earlier that talks about our online training and leadership development, which is Leaders, plural, Leaders, ought, OUGHT, to know, KNOW. So leadersoughttoknow.com. And there's some things that might be interesting to people. If they have questions, send me an email or give me a call. I already gave our phone number. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
Yeah, great stuff, folks. And if you're looking for a little motivation, you're looking for an uplift, it's always good, whether you're in your car, pop a CD or something about leadership, about personal development, because you're not going wrong anytime that you can improve. It might just be something simple, but improve yourself, personal development-wise or anything. It's just good stuff. It's like getting an extra little – it's like saying a good prayer, and then, listen, you just get pumped up about it.
We should be lifelong learners. We should never be satisfied. Sometimes I had a conversation with a gentleman this morning on my walk, and he said, well, I'm about to retire later this year. He said, I'm looking forward to learning and growing in the next phase of my career, and that encourages me.
Yeah.
I don't care whether we're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, we should be continuing to learn and to contribute at any point that we can.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for what you offer, what you bring to our community, and your vision And, of course, Vision West Kentucky. Can't thank you enough. You have a forum here anytime, sir, and we want to have you back from time to time to tell us what you're up to, and as well as what these leaders, these great young folks are doing in our community.
Ty, you and WPKY Tiger have been wonderful additions and contributors to our community. We appreciate this forum, and any way that we can help you, just know that we stand ready to do so.
All right. We thank you so much. You have a wonderful Tuesday and appreciate you coming in.